In fact, I was going to ask you about that because knowing the IT minister's capability, already inquiries are starting about whether the, we know that the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has also said that Tamil Nadu Dravidian model is paving the way for whole of India. And we know about the artificial intelligence engines. So is Tamil Nadu also planning, we've seen how Tamil Nadu government is actually planning with various parallel way of working. So does Tamil Nadu government also have any plan, especially PT Thiagarajan, to create an AI engine for the people of the state?
Yeah, I think, look, as I say, I think more targeted, call them small language models, if you will, or purpose-built automation. I mean, AI basically is like saying the machine will learn itself, will program itself, I don't need to do it. So in some sense, the analogy I give is that industrial automation, when I was a factory consultant going back, 1980s in the US or 1990s, we knew that automation was coming. But, manual labor still paid back in those days in manufacturing, $80,000, $90,000 a year in compensation. I'm saying in that day's dollars, not today's. And then it took 20, 30 years and it happened, phase by phase. But now if you go look at a car factory, anybody who's ever been to a car factory, let's say 30 years ago like me, you can't recognize it's like ghost town. The robots can do everything. The flexibility and the cost of robotics and automation has come down so much that there are hardly any human beings left. They just monitor the machines, right? So, and of course, sometimes they go wrong. A friend of mine is big in the dairy business, and I went to his, he took me out to see his automated ice cream factory. And the error rates, in my opinion, are too high. Like, you shouldn't waste that much ice cream. That's a sin anyway. But, automation comes in its own way. The same thing, I think, is going to happen to technology. I think the more limited your ambition and the purer your data set, the more likely you will go to fully successful voice-based or easiest interface automation through AI. And the government is doing its own preliminary work on that. I would say we have something that it was announced in 2020 or something by the previous government, which is the notion of integrating all the different databases we have with privacy controls, but trying to figure out how we can provide citizen-centric benefits, programs, services instead of department-centric or budget-centric. Right now, in agriculture alone, we probably have like 240 schemes. Incidentally, I have a quick question. When we started doing this exercise, we started tracking how many benefit schemes are there. Like we have Pudumai Pen or, Kalangar, Magalir, Urumetoge, but like those schemes, subsidies or grants or whatever, how many such schemes can we find in the government of Tamil Nadu? Take a guess. I'm not saying we're comprehensive, but let's say after 2 years of effort, how many schemes do you think we have?
Pramod, you're more on the ground.
Schemes are multiple. I can even say like major
pick
schemes.
Number, 100, 200, 300. Right? Some random, close enough, approximation.
I should say at least more than 150, if I'm correct.
The last count, we had 565 or something like that, right? Of which
let's give them a warm round of applause for that.
We were able to get like 380 of these decent data. Now we start integrating them and we're starting to realize what are complementary, what are overlaps. So back again when I was finance minister, I started a lot of this initiative because we had given a campaign commitment to waive some loans on agricultural loans with gold pledging. It's a long story, not worth going into details, but we got such good outcomes that we decided we'd ramp up, though it was the predecessor government that announced it, had not done anything to it. And now, because it's happening in my department under the Tamil Nadu e-governance agency, we are finding, for example, one family is benefiting from 23 different schemes of the government of Tamil Nadu. We have schemes on the other extreme where in the entire state, only 10 people are benefiting from the scheme. So, the second order benefits we'll get from this, because every government comes and announces some scheme, and then it perpetuates. But, if you every now and then could clean houses. So the data integrity and the automation of beneficiary selection, I think, is the lowest hanging fruit for where AI can basically help us in the governance.
One of the things you mentioned with a lot of replacement happening of human capital, so there's a need for a different kind of skilling.
Yes.
What are you doing on that? We had a session here we talked about, and we saw the gaps that was there in skilling. 90% of our workers are unskilled. Okay, if you're going to skill them, which areas would you now focus and which centers you'd like to really develop in Tamil Nadu?
Well, again, it's not my portfolio, but I would say broadly there are three aspects of education and skilling that I think we should be thinking about. The first is, what if the machine is smart enough to learn and program itself? What is it that makes a human different than the machine? Right? And in a way, that is something that we have lost. And I've said this multiple places, it's worth repeating. At one point, education was about making people more humane, more erudite, more thoughtful, more aware of history, more, urbane, better citizens, better human beings. Now we have almost all education is intended to get you to a job and to a salary and to outcomes, right? And so we have lost a lot of things in the process. And actually, if the machine can do a lot of the stuff that you otherwise were going to get educated to do, maybe we should go back to creating more thoughtful, more empathetic, better citizens, better human beings, as one aspect of it. Second is, no matter what the machine does, our socio-political, economic construct will require human beings to supervise these machines, to validate the ethics of it, to be the signers to take human accountability. So I would say in almost every field, there will be greater need for deep knowledge, enough to gauge whether the machine is doing its job properly. So it's almost like a return to the basics, right? I'll say it slightly differently. At one point, there was a lament in the US at least that because finance paid so much, the entire cream of the youth were shifting to finance careers through globalization, securitization. There was 100 reasons for it. But bond traders who once used to make 50,000, 80,000 a year and consider having a second job started making 10 million, 15 million a year, and it just drew the talent away from doing any research or medicine or other things like that. That changed after the crisis and a lot of things. The same way, I think the age of AI is going to take away the notion that everybody can be some kind of generic IT service person. And you're going to go back to being specialist at something, at biology, at civil engineering, at, food safety. Something that actually is a real skill other than the marginal efficiency of making the machine do the job better. And so I think all these changes, that's why I say earlier, we'll have to start at the kind of elementary school level. What kind of citizens do we want to have? And what kinds of qualities of humanity will still be relevant if the machine can automate 90% of what human beings used to do.
Right.
And there's many examples. If you look around the world, there's places where automation has reduced the number of jobs but increased the compensation because they need to supervise the machine. There's places where automation has increased the number of jobs but made them so low level that the per person compensation has come down, meaning it's more like just tick the box. So there's a lot of history on these kinds of analyses, and there's a couple of papers from my old university, from MIT, that has looked into this. And the prognosis is good. There will be more jobs created than destroyed, but there will be a lot of change, and I think we need to adapt for that.